All right. Well, let's get into it. So Team USA, they play tomorrow. Is it tomorrow or Wednesday?
No, it's tomorrow at like 3:30 Eastern, I believe.
Yeah. So they play Brazil tomorrow, and these games count. Losing, you're out, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, losing, you're out. And so the one and done portion is upon us. We all, of course, expect Team USA to win. And Draymond Green certainly expects them to win. Not only did he say they're going to win these Olympics, but he said that they would rout the 1992 Dream Team. Here's Draymond.
This 2024 team are definitely drawing those comparisons to the Dream Team. And quite frankly, I'm taking the 2024 team 7 days a week. I think the 2024 team beats the Dream Team 5 out of 7 games. Gotta give the Dream Team some respect. They got GOATs, we get it. They got Hall of Famers, we get it. I just think the versatility on that team, the star power, the scoring, I don't think the Dream Team can do anything with that. Now, if the Dream Team has Shaq on it and not Christian Laettner, maybe a different story. And that's why I don't think the Dream Team could come close. I wouldn't say come close. A 10-point loss, double digits. By 2024 Team USA, you can book it.
All right. You can have the honors first, Mr. Martin Weiss.
Yeah, I think he is a little.
He basically saying a 5-game series, 5 out of 7.
Yeah.
You know, that's the equivalent, I'd say, of 4 to 1.
Yeah, I think that's not necessarily true. I think that if you look at the 2024 team, I would pick them. I'd have them as a slight favorite, but it would just be slight. And that's also depending on, in this hypothetical scenario, when the game is played. If the game is played in 2024, I'd have them as a little bit of a lesser favorite, because then you would have guys like Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, and so on, who are on the original Dream Team. They would be more adept to shooting the three-pointer. They'd be more adept to defending the three-pointer, and would think really style of play would ruin this opportunity for the 92 team if they just were dropped in 2024. If they were dropped into 1992 and Steph and LeBron and so on had to adjust to the way that the 90s basketball was played, I still would have them as slight favorites, but not nearly 4-1, 5 games in a 7-game series. Nah, I couldn't go there, because if you look at the original Dream Team, they have much better isolation players, in my opinion, than the 2024 team does, with the Michael Jordan leading that Dream Team. I also think that his point about Shaq is one that's a good one.
Yep.
That I think if
definitely
Shaq was on the team, I don't know who, Joel Embiid, he gives up 40 pounds to what Shaq was, and Shaq had ballerina feet, and Embiid wants to shoot free throw line jumpers anyway. So he would have to pound with him in the post, and we see how Embiid would do against that. And I don't think it would be very well. But he's just talking a little bit too much with his chest here and saying that this team would most definitely beat the Dream Team. Well, I think it would be a much closer game.
Yeah. Here's the advantage that the 2024 team would have. Because I would say all these players in their prime, it's still a great game if they're all in their prime, or a great series since he put it in the series. But the advantage that this current team, and obviously LeBron is, 39 years old, but he's still playing really well. When you look at the Dream Team in 92, and a lot of people forget this, Magic Johnson was a year removed from NBA basketball, right? Like, because of HIV, he had to retire. And he hadn't played competitive NBA basketball consistently in a year. He did come back and play in the All-Star game, won MVP, looked great, but we know that is not the same. And, of course, he looked great in the Olympics, but everybody did because they routed these overmatched teams. So I guess I would say Magic on that team was not at his best, just because he wasn't, playing consistently against that level of competition. Bird, who had a solid year, I think he only played might only play 45 games that year, but he played well when he played. But he didn't play a lot in the Olympics. He didn't even practice in those games at all because of his back. And he was able to come in, and as Magic said, when he got a chance, he switched a few, on the documentary. But it was Larry Bird never played another NBA game after the Dream Team. And that year, I was right. He played 45 games, averaged 20 points and 6.8 assists. I mean, this is how good Bird was. He averaged 20 points, 9.6 rebounds, and 6.8 assists in 45 games in that really compromised state because of his back.
Right. Inches away from a triple-double.
Right. So he just, Magic and Bird, who along with Mike were the biggest names, weren't at their best. So that would be the advantage that the 2024 team would have. But I think that, and you're right, like if you play in 92, now all of a sudden the defense is a lot more physical. And I do think that affects Steph and Durant. Those are the two mainly that I think it would affect. Steph and Durant, because Durant we've seen struggle with physical defense. Go back to when he was in Brooklyn against the Boston Celtics, even playing against Denver in the playoffs recently. Steph, a lot of people have talked about it, as great as he is, if you can hand check, and you could slow a guy down like that could affect Steph.
Chris, also real quick to that point, I think that the only player on the 2024 team that would benefit from that defense, because I think it would go both ways, right? Both, it would hinder them offensively, and then on the defensive side of things, because the other guys would be more used to physical defense, would be in trouble. I think Anthony Edwards, though, would be able to be a lot better defensively in that, because you see he's reaching all over the place.
Right.
If he could hand check,
strong.
He's strong enough to guide people around.
I think one advantage or a couple advantages that the 92 team would have, obviously inside they got Ewing and David Robinson, Karl Malone, Charles Barkley. That's a lot to deal with inside. And this team was so concerned in 2024 with inside play of guys that weren't nearly as good as the ones I just mentioned, that's why they put Joel Embiid on the team.
Yep.
Because they needed size. Also, Martin, and I would admit on paper, you probably like the 24 team, even though obviously Michael Jordan is smack dab in the middle of his prime, and so is Charles Barkley. But one of the big advantages, I think, for the 92 team, Martin, is that back in 1992, American players they were better at playing team basketball.
Yeah.
They were better at playing 5-man basketball. Every single player on that Dream Team knew how to play, including Michael Jordan, knew how to play without the ball in his hands and be effective without the ball in his hands. And they would go and set screens, and they're doing backdoor cuts and things like that. And this team is doing a little the more you watch them. But the fact is, these guys, because of how they've grown up playing, they are not as used to playing 5-man basketball. They used to playing 1-man ball, which is ISO, or 2-man ball, high pick and roll. Everybody spread the floor. And you can see that a lot of them, Joel Embiid and Devin Booker maybe, although he's played fairly well. Maybe Jason Tatum. Like, a lot of these guys aren't as comfortable and aren't playing at their absolute peak because they are not just not as comfortable playing without the ball in their hands and without being like the number one guy or number two guy at worst. And so I think that's a big advantage. And Magic Johnson, now LeBron is playing point essentially, and he's giving you, hints of Magic Johnson. But Magic Johnson, Martin, was the premier player of all time as far as bringing players together. Mm-hmm. So you give him that much talent, and I think he just get the pass to the right man at the right time in the right place. So I think the 92 team, because of their style of play, I think it'd be a toss-up. I really do. I think they could play with this team. I even might take the 92 team because you got Jordan and Barkley in their prime.
Well, Chris, one other thing, too, you got Jordan and Barkley in their prime, but again, depending on the era, right? If these guys were playing at 2024, with the, I mean, I think Larry Bird probably would have found somebody else to cement his driveway and maybe wouldn't have injured his back doing that. I think he probably would have been able to afford to get somebody else to do it.
He still could have done it back then, but
But I'm just saying now with so much more money involved, it's kind of, I don't want to say it has outsized importance, but if think about the 24-hour news cycle. If you heard that Larry Bird, or even hell, Tyrese Halliburton was paving his own driveway, we would call him crazy. But who knows where a guy like, well, Magic probably would have been in the same boat, but if these guys who are past their prime, quote unquote, who knows where their prime would be? Because if you had told me 10 years ago that LeBron James and Steph Curry would still be in their prime in 2024, I would say that's a bet I'm probably not going to take. Right. Like now, you see these guys, they're still, two of the top 10 basketball players in the world, top 15 basketball players in the world at over 35 years old. KD
and remember, Martin, as well, that even though, like you said, the players back then they didn't shoot the three nearly as much as they shoot it today, not even close. Remember, the international line is shorter. Yep. So it's 22, it's like a foot, basically close to a foot and a half shorter. So that would be, I won't say an advantage for the Dream Team, but they would certainly be able to hit those threes. Michael Jordan's best three-point shooting year, percentage-wise, was the year they moved. Remember, they moved the line in. Mm-hmm. And Jordan shot 43% from three that year. Because he was a career 33% shooter. So
they're taking the same shots. They're just not long twos anymore.
Right. Yep. And so that's where I think you need to. And some even say, Steph obviously has been off, and some have joked, maybe the line's too close for him. But that actually might be true. You know what I mean? Like, he may need to shoot further back. I don't know how Steph is to taking 22 footers. You know what I mean? Because if he's that close, he just steps back and takes a 24 footer, a 3-pointer. Mm-hmm. So I think Draymond definitely, I won't say disrespects the Dream Team, although that it is that. I don't think he meant it that way, but it's definitely selling them short. I think it'd be a toss-up.